Good day, everyone. I am Christine, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone to today's webinar, 2025 Updates for HIPAA Training for the Compliance Officer, What You Need to Know Under the New Presidential Administrations. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Mark R. Brinkelman. Mark holds bachelor's and master's degrees in philosophy from Emory University. Mark is a frequent continuing education presenter, including national organizations around the country. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate the kind introduction. We are here today at this moment. This is a first-time webinar for this topic. So this is HIPAA updates, what you need to know under the new presidential administration. We will cover the basics of HIPAA privacy and security, all about the identification establishment of a compliance officer, skim over the duties of the compliance officer, discuss a little bit about if you're big enough to have a corporate legal office, do you just designate them as your compliance officer, and comments about whether you can outsource your compliance officer duties. And what to do if you are a solo healthcare practitioner. Can you be your own office's compliance officer? We will try to note some best practices, tips and techniques, and also what you need to know under the new presidential administration. I have some disclaimers here. This provides a broad overview of HIPAA for the compliance officer. We don't cover everything about HIPAA or even everything about a compliance officer or HIPAA as applied to any specific healthcare profession. This does educate the person attending. It raises awareness. We're going to raise awareness of coming regulatory changes under the new presidential administration. I have some additional disclaimers. These are new disclaimers, new and improved. So this advanced webinar has been updated for 2025, which examines the duties of a HIPAA compliance officer of a healthcare entity or even a single person as a covered entity, and what the proper role is in helping the healthcare entity. So the Department of Health and Human Services, now headed by RFK Jr., polices patient privacy and confidentiality violations of a healthcare entity. Who is responsible for ensuring HIPAA compliance in your healthcare organization? Who is this HIPAA compliance officer and what does he or she do? This is the person who oversees all ongoing activities related to the development, the implementation, and current and ongoing maintenance of the practice or their healthcare entity to comply with appropriate federal law. So remember, this goes back almost 30 years ago when Congress passed the federal law, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, to protect confidential health information, not just organizations, but it applies to any healthcare provider. So there's this federal right of privacy in the U.S. for protected health information. There is, in addition to HIPAA, there are state law privacy rights. We should all know what protected health information is and who covered entities are and who business associates are, and how protected health information is anything of a covered entity that concerns health status, provision of healthcare, payment for healthcare. Hospitals and other healthcare facilities as entities are covered entities. Their employees are covered employees. Let's take a deeper dive into the HIPAA compliance officer. This can be an existing employee. It can be a part-time or full-time job duty. So HIPAA compliance officer is often interchanged with HIPAA security officer. The compliance officer has to know the policies and procedures related to protection of protected health information. They also oversee all ongoing activities related to the development, implementation, and maintenance of the written privacy policies and procedures. Why is confidentiality difficult? But something about social media is the rules are just different for healthcare practitioners. Core duties of the compliance officer include adopting appropriate policies and procedures and updating them to comply with privacy rules. So the HIPAA compliance officer does oversee the implementation of the client or employee privacy rights. They do work closely with legal counsel and with the compliance office. Note that any employee who has access to protected health information has to understand the procedures for maintaining privacy. Can you be your own compliance officer? Well, HIPAA as a body of law is geared more towards healthcare organizations and entities. So you can be your own compliance officer, but it may also include medical records storage and access issues. The top takeaway here is that at least for mental health practitioners, confidentiality is easy, but not the technical aspects of HIPAA. More best practices and overall functions of the compliance officer. They should routinely monitor state law and federal HIPAA regulations. The HIPAA compliance officer, as far as basic best practices and overall functions, has to demonstrate a thorough knowledge of privacy and security, monitor and document that progress. The HIPAA compliance officer sets priorities for the organization's compliance program. Comprehensive list of job duties. Let's check these off. The comprehensive list of job duties includes creating and monitoring business associate agreements to ensure compliance. More job duties include ensuring that all employees are acting in total compliance with privacy policies and deploy sanctions in the event of a breach. Here's the big picture. The even bigger picture as to top takeaways of the compliance officer. That compliance officer speaks for HIPAA as a core value. It's the one person who thinks about privacy and security as their top priority. So the rule book is HIPAA law and the victory is maintaining privacy and security. The responsibility and authority for the compliance officer comes totally from the top. In an organization, senior management would support the compliance officer with the resources needed for compliance. Here's a little nice diagram. Your privacy predictions for all of 225 include HIPAA. In case you didn't notice from the news, we have a new presidential administration at this time in the spring of 2025. But it all started on the inauguration day, January 20th. The new president signed multiple executive orders that affect those administrative regs, including HIPAA. Kind of not unusual to just put a freeze on things to maintain the status quo. Immediately withdrawing rules that have been sent for publication but not yet published so they can be reviewed. During this time, where appropriate and consistent, consider it reopening a comment period. They are basically going to start over with notice and comment rulemaking. Following the postponement described above, no further action needs to be taken that raise no substantial questions of fact, law, or policy. So have we covered it all? The basics of HIPAA privacy, identification, establishment of a compliance officer, duties of the compliance officer, whether you can have your corporate legal office, whether you delegate or outsource your compliance officer's duties. What do you do if you're a solo healthcare practitioner? Can you be your own office's compliance officer, and what are those best practices? Do you have basic tips and techniques to have an effective functioning compliance officer? What are the top duties? And what do you need to know under the new presidential administration? HIPAA tells you how you want to do things that you want to do. Thank you, Christine. This has been a really productive use of our time. Thank you for sharing it with me today as we gave a broad overview of the duties of the compliance officer and tried to predict some things that may be coming down the pike under the new presidential administration. Right now, so many things are simply on hold. So this is a topic that will surely need to be updated. So over and out, everyone stay safe and be safe.
Thank you, Mark. That concludes the session for today. Thank you for everyone. Thank you everyone for participating. You may all disconnect now and have a productive day.